I speak to you in the name of the light who enlightens the nations. Amen. It is a very special day. It is a very special day for many reasons. One is that, as Megan has pointed out to me, today's date is a palindrome, isn't it? February 2nd, 2020, 0202-2020, a mirror image of itself. When does that happen? That is very special. It is also very special that it is Super Bowl Sunday. It is also very special that it is the first full day of our shelter week. And we have guests, 30 guests staying the night with us, starting last night and continuing until next Saturday. It is also a special day because we get to celebrate the feast of the presentation of Jesus in the temple. A feast that falls every year on February 2nd, but since February 2nd, as any date, falls so rarely on a Sunday, we typically don't get to observe this all together. The presentation of the temple, as we just heard in the gospel, recalls the day when Jesus' parents, Mary and Joseph, being observant and devout and faithful Jews, followed the tradition of presenting their firstborn baby boy at about 40 days old, which is, if we call December 25th Jesus' birthday, then today, February 2nd, is 40 days later. Presenting their firstborn baby boy into the temple, introducing him to public life, public and religious life in their community. And following childbirth, Mary was ritually welcomed back into public religious life on this day. Fascinatingly, two elders there in the temple recognize in this 40-day-old baby a light to enlighten the nations. They see salvation in this infant. A light to enlighten the nations, in other times rendered a light to enlighten the Gentiles. That is, a light that will be a beacon to those who are not in that specific community. Gentiles, the nations, referring to all of those people beyond themselves. Another way we might imagine it is that even in his infancy, Simeon and Anna recognized in this baby a light that would shine for, we could imagine, those who feel that they do not belong, those who are not automatically included in the whole, those who might consider themselves other, unwelcome, uninvited. Those people, you and me, our neighbors, all those who we have yet to meet, any parts of us within us that say, I'm not welcome, I'm uninvited, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy. The light of this baby Jesus shines to us, to all of those places. Incredible. Incredible. To honor this radically powerful light, some of the earliest Christians began in February to connect candles to Simeon's prophecy that Jesus is the light that will shine for all of us beyond and more fully than we could imagine. A light that will bring people together, not cast them apart. In honor of this light, in honor of putting our trust and our hope in this light, some of the earliest Christians began to gather all of their candles together. Now, remember that up until very recently, no electricity, right? So in effect, all of these Christians are bringing all of their sources of light, gathering them together, pooling them together in one place on one magnificent Sunday, and blessing them, saying, God be with us, shine among us, shine far beyond these walls. Be beacons of hope beyond what we can imagine. Be our warmth. Be our hope. And so they did. And then they processed throughout the towns, we hear, declaring publicly, as Jesus was presented publicly today, we believe in this light that shines for all to belong and to be recognized and included, a light that shines for all to know that they are whole and created in light and love. In this light, we put our trust and we will show it. This tradition started in the Middle East, and then as Christians began to migrate to other parts of the world, we know it spread throughout Europe and to England. And then, as Christians migrated from the continent and England to the American colonies, they brought this tradition with them. And they were calling it Candlemas, Candle Mass, Candle Festival, a gathering of light. It is also interesting to me that early February 2nd, is about halfway between the winter solstice, around the time of Christmas, and the spring equinox. So it truly is, in terms of our weather and physical experience here on Earth, a pivot between the darkness of winter to the hope of spring. January is very long. If you're like me, you wonder, as we roll the corner into February, how much longer? How long, O Lord? How long will we dwell in darkness? How long will the snow crinkle under our feet? How long will we fear for slipping on the ice? How long will winter last? Will spring ever come? Will the darkness ever lift? We might wonder these things. And we are not alone. We also pivot in our faith today, following Simeon's prophecy that in this baby, this light, this beacon of light and hope and truth, as he shines, there will be challenge, there will be sacrifice. As he enters public life, he will meet opposition. And that opposition will bring great sacrifice, not only for him, but for his family and his friends. This is a truth that he will bring. So it is that as all of these traditions wove their way and traveled across the ocean from England to the American colonies, we read in a letter from 1841, in Pennsylvania of all places, a man named James writing, "Last Tuesday, the 2nd, was Candlemas Day, the day on which, according to the Germans, the groundhog peeps out of its winter quarters. And if he sees a shadow, he pops back in for another 6 weeks nap. But if the day be cloudy, he remains out, as the weather is to be moderate." Candlemas gains another name around this time. Around this time, this man James would have known of proverbs and rhymes and songs along the lines of this: "If Candlemas Day be fair and bright, winter will have another fight. If Candlemas Day brings cloud and rain, winter won't come again." So in Pennsylvania in the mid-1800s, this tradition of Candlemas, February 2nd, being a pivot point between winter and the hope of spring, being a day in which we wonder, for one reason and another, will the light ever come? Wondering along with Simeon, who asked that question his whole life and finally saw it. And when he did, he said, "Lord, you may let your servant depart in peace, for I have seen your salvation, a light to enlighten the nations, a light that will shine for all to belong and be welcome and be included and be whole." I think about what Groundhog Day means as our climate and our weather patterns change so radically. For a long time, we have, even lightheartedly, been able to look to a groundhog's behavior on February 2nd, and have some modicum of anticipation of what will happen next. And maybe it's accurate, maybe it turns out to be accurate, maybe not. But we have long looked to that groundhog for some degree of assurance, one way or another, what will happen. And I don't feel that assurance anymore. I don't know about you. Maybe I never should have. But there's really nothing I can point to feel that sense of anticipation for which I had really taken for granted. That gives me a clue of what the weather might be like, what our climate will be like. For all I know, it could be 60 degrees tomorrow. It could be 0 degrees the next day. There could be a heat wave. There could be a polar vortex. It's all up in the air. And maybe we're the type that can roll rather flexibly with the weather. But I also think as people of faith, we look to Candlemas as we might look to Groundhog Day and say, where is the light? Are we trapped in the darkness of sin? Are we trapped? Will the light ever come? Is there a light in the darkness? As important systems that we depend on, and perhaps until recently have taken for granted, are decaying and failing, we might ask, are we trapped in the darkness of sin? The darkness of injustice? Where is this beacon of light in which all will belong and become whole and have opportunity and have justice? Will justice emerge? As one of our hymns that we'll sing later says, light is kindled in the darkness when our hope seems most absurd. That line, ever since I've learned this hymn, has stayed with me. And today, we will sing and we will commit to no matter what, no matter how the weather is changing and our systems are changing and the ground may be shifting beneath our feet, we as followers of this light will commit to raise our candles in the darkness, though our wick of faith may be burning low. And we will feed the fire with none other than grace and justice, and together we will watch it grow. As we gather our flames together, as we will at the close of this service, God will dispel the night of hatred, and the blaze of love burns bright. That is where we put our faith. That is what we believe. That is when the darkness seems unrelenting is what we believe, and it's what we do. So at the close of this service, you all may have candles. If you don't have candles, you can get candles as we exchange the peace. And members of our altar guild will gather after communion, and they have gathered all the different kinds of candles that we will use throughout the year. Think about it. And let this encourage you, even in this deepest darkness. Before us are candles that we will burn during Advent, the 3 blues and the pink. Before us are candles that we will light and share at baptism. Let that encourage you. Light is coming. Before us are votive candles that we light when we are grieving or hurting and we want to pray for somebody. Before us are candles that remain in the eternal light, reminding us of the constant presence of light and of Christ. Though they don't fit into the basket, today we also recognize and remember our Paschal candles and our torches. The light goes before us always. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.